Today in Retro Laws, we're stepping back into the dark era of tank controls and pixelated blood as we uncover the obscure history, hidden depth, and lost terror of Chaos Break. Chapter 1: The Shadow of Dino Crisis. Imagine sitting in a dark bedroom during the early months of the year 2000. The gentle hum of a heavy boxy television fills the quiet room with warmth. Soft blue light washes over the floor, while a grey console spins a disc. This was the undisputed golden era of survival horror on the original PlayStation. Players across the world were completely obsessed with dark corridors, limited ammo, and fixed camera angles. Capcom had already changed video game history forever with the legendary release of Resident Evil. They proved that video games could make your heart race like a movie. Then they did it again by releasing Dino Crisis just 3 years later. Dino Crisis traded slow zombies for fast and intelligent prehistoric predators in a high-tech facility. It felt sleek, modern, cinematic, and deeply terrifying for players everywhere. During this incredible time, every major game studio wanted to create their own hit horror game. Companies were searching for ways to capture that same dark and profitable magic. They wanted games that forced players to manage resources while fighting terrifying monsters in locked spaces. Japan was the absolute epicenter of this creative movement in the interactive entertainment world. Japanese developers were pushing the original PlayStation hardware to its absolute limits. They learned how to turn simple, blocky polygons into atmospheric nightmares filled with dreadful suspense. Gamers would spend endless nights trapped inside mansion hallways, fog-filled streets, and abandoned research stations. The survival horror genre was not just popular, it completely defined a console generation. Yet among all these legendary titles, one strange game emerged from the dark shadows. In January of the year 2000, Japanese gamers received an obscure title called Chaos Break. It was subtitled Episode 1, Night of the Chaos, promising an epic future series. The game was published by Taito, a legendary company famous for classic arcade games. Taito had helped build the video game industry decades earlier with hits like Space Invaders. However, the actual development of Chaos Break was handled by a company named Eighting. Eighting was a talented studio mostly known for fast action games and colorful arcade shooters. They knew how to make games that demanded quick reflexes and endless arcade quarters. Transitioning from bright arcade action to slow survival horror was a massive creative risk. To understand where Chaos Break came from, we must look back at arcade history. 2 years earlier, in 1998, Taito and Eighting released an arcade game named Chaos Heat. Chaos Heat was a fast, third-person action game built for Taito FX hardware. Players picked a character and ran through futuristic corridors, shooting waves of strange monsters. The camera stayed tightly behind the player, giving the game an intense arcade feel. It was loud, bright, action-packed, and designed to swallow coins as fast as possible. You did not conserve ammo or solve complex puzzles in the arcade version. You simply held down the fire button and blasted through rooms full of danger. It was a pure action game made for quick thrills in noisy game centers. However, home console players in the year 2000 wanted something much deeper than arcades. They did not want a game they could finish in 20 simple minutes. Console gamers wanted intricate stories, terrifying atmospheres, challenging puzzles, and memorable characters to control. Eighting realized they could not simply port Chaos Heat directly to the home console. A pure arcade shooter would feel shallow and repetitive on a home television screen. So the developers made a bold choice to strip the arcade engine apart entirely. They decided to take the core characters, setting, and creatures from their arcade game. Then they rebuilt everything from the ground up as a slow-burn survival horror title. This dramatic shift in design philosophy created a fascinating hybrid of two different genres. Chaos Break retained the smooth third-person camera movement and real-time combat from its arcade roots, but it wrapped those mechanics inside the classic structure of a PlayStation survival horror game. Players now had to search dark rooms for keycards to open locked doors. They had to read abandoned scientific journals to discover hidden codes for computer terminals. Ammunition was no longer infinite, forcing players to think twice before pulling the trigger. Health items were rare, meaning every mistake carried a real and lasting consequence. The fast coin-op shooter had officially transformed into a tense fight for physical survival. Designing a horror game for the original PlayStation presented immense technical challenges for 8ing. By the year 2000, the PlayStation hardware was already 6 long years old. Newer and more powerful hardware like the Sega Dreamcast was already on store shelves. The legendary PlayStation 2 was just months away from launching in Japanese retail stores. The old grey console was reaching the absolute end of its legendary technological lifespan. Its graphic processing unit had very strict limits on memory, polygons, and visual effects. Developers could no longer shock players with simple low-poly models and basic textures alone. They had to use clever tricks with lighting, shadows, and camera angles to hide limitations. Capcom had solved hardware limitations in Resident Evil by using static pre-rendered background images. The console only had to draw the moving characters over a flat rendered picture. This trick allowed games to feature incredible visual detail despite weak hardware specs. However, 8ing chose a much harder path for the development of Chaos Break. They decided to render the entire game world in full three-dimensional graphics in real time. Every wall, door, computer terminal, and monster was calculated by the console live. This decision gave the developers total control over dynamic camera angles and smooth character movement. But it also meant they had to carefully manage every polygon on the screen. If too many complex objects appeared on screen at once, the game would slow down. The frame rate would drop, destroying the smooth action 8ing wanted to achieve. To prevent this, the artists designed tight, enclosed corridors with limited visible distances. The dark, industrial halls of the game were not just a creative thematic choice. They were a necessary technical trick to keep the PlayStation hardware running smoothly. The low-resolution textures created a dirty industrial look that accidentally enhanced the terrifying mood. What began as a hardware constraint became the game's most defining atmospheric strength. The cold, metallic walls felt rusty, damp, real, and heavy with unspoken industrial secrets. The story of Chaos Break begins with a classic and beloved survival horror setup. An isolated research facility named Flux Laboratory suddenly stops sending out all radio communications. The facility is built on a remote island far out in the dark ocean. A specialized military team is quickly dispatched to investigate the sudden, eerie silence. The player can choose to control one of two very different response agents. There is Matuki, an agile female agent armed with an advanced thermal energy blade. Then there is Rick, a heavily armed male soldier equipped with powerful long-range firearms. As soon as they land on the facility heliport, they realize something is horribly wrong. The air is cold, the lights are dead, and blood covers the floors. The game immediately establishes a mood of deep isolation and unsettling, heavy silence. Unlike arcade games that scream for your attention with bright colors and sound, Chaos Break waits. It lets the quiet hum of fluorescent lights build a feeling of deep unease. You step through heavy steel doors, hearing the hydraulic pressure hiss in the dark. The camera stays close behind your character, preserving your field of view just enough. You never quite know what is waiting around the next dark corner of the facility. A strange, skittering sound echoes down the hallway, but the room appears empty. This slow, deliberate pacing was a complete departure from the developer's past work. In the year 2000, the gaming landscape was changing faster than ever before. Gamers were looking toward the future of high-definition graphics and massive cinematic worlds. Because of this massive generational shift, many late lifespan PlayStation games were completely overlooked. Chaos Break was released right at this chaotic turning point in video game history. In Japan, it arrived with modest promotion and quickly faded from store shelves. In Europe, it received a localized release late in the year 2000 through System 3. However, the game was mysteriously never published or released in North America at all. American gaming magazines only covered the game through tiny import preview articles with pixelated screenshots. This lack of an American release turned Chaos Break into a lost mystery game. For decades, Western survival horror fans only heard about the title through playground rumors. Early internet message boards contained vague posts about a dark Japanese game featuring biomonsters. Some players confused it with Dino Crisis, while others claimed it was an unreleased Resident Evil. The game became an urban legend among collectors who hunted for rare foreign import discs. Finding a physical copy of the PAL or Japanese version felt like discovering secret treasure. It was a forgotten piece of late-era PlayStation history, waiting to be fully uncovered. Looking back today, the creation of Chaos Break represents a fascinating moment in time. It captures a specific era when developers were brave enough to experiment with genre mashups. 18 took a fast, mindless arcade shooter and forced it to become a moody horror game. They fought against strict hardware limitations during the final twilight years of the original PlayStation. They built a game that honored the classic tropes of Dino Crisis and Resident Evil. Yet they managed to maintain a unique identity defined by action-heavy combat and real-time environments. It stands as a monument to the golden age of classic tank control survival horror games. As we step deeper into the dark world of Chaos Break, we must explore its setting. The story does not take place in a dusty mansion or a sleepy mountain town. It takes us deep inside the cold, mechanical heart of the Flux Laboratory facility. Every room in this isolated ocean compound was designed to keep terrible secrets buried forever. In the next section, we will analyze the eerie spatial architecture of this biological nightmare. We will examine how industrial design, limited lighting and sound built an unforgettable sense of dread. Chapter 2: Isolation at Sea. The ocean is one of the most terrifying locations on our entire planet. Millions of tons of cold, black water press against human structures from every direction. When you build a secret research laboratory far out at sea, safety vanishes instantly. If something goes wrong inside an offshore facility, help cannot simply drive down the street. High waves and stormy weather can trap people inside for days or even weeks. There are no neighbors to hear your screams when dangerous biological experiments break out. The scientists inside Flux Laboratory knew they were completely alone in the world. They worked every single day under the constant pressure of the dark surrounding water. This intense geographical isolation is the physical and emotional foundation of Chaos Break. Your nightmare journey begins on the slippery metal surface of the upper landing pad. Cold ocean rain washes across the deck as dark clouds cover the sky above. The massive transport helicopter sits idling on the wet, painted surface behind your team. Powerful wind whips through the open air, creating a chilling sense of sudden vulnerability. As you step away from the chopper, the heavy metal door seals tightly behind you. You walk into the outer vestibule and leave the roaring ocean wind behind forever. Instantly, the loud sound of storm water drops to a dull, low thud. A thick, heavy quiet fills the air, broken only by your own rhythmic footsteps. You are no longer standing on open ground under the wide night sky. You are officially trapped inside a giant floating coffin made of cold, hard steel. The architecture of Flux Laboratory was designed with a very specific structural purpose. It is not an elegant grand castle or a sprawling old wooden mansion. It is a functional industrial complex built for dark corporate science and dirty labor. The upper levels house basic maintenance offices, supply rooms, and heavy mechanical power generators. Cold steel pipes run across the ceilings, dripping condensation onto the concrete floor below. Bright red emergency valves stick out from yellow warning stripes painted along the walls. Exposed wiring hangs down from broken ceiling panels like dead hanging vines in a jungle. The facility looks, sounds, and feels like a real working industrial plant. Everything about the environment tells you that human comfort was never a major priority. As you progress deeper into the facility, the visual environment slowly begins to change. The dirty industrial halls give way to clean high-tech biological research laboratories. White tile walls replace raw concrete blocks, but they are no longer pure white. Dried crimson blood splatters coat the glass walls of sealed isolation containment chambers. Shattered glass from broken test tubes litters the polished tile floors beneath your boots. Medical gurneys lie tipped over on their sides in the middle of long hallways. Biological hazard signs glow with a faint radioactive green light in the dark. The transition from industrial factory to secret science lab builds a strong narrative progression. You physically feel yourself descending into the dark belly of a corporate nightmare machine. Rendering this complex facility in full real-time three-dimensional graphics was a huge technical achievement. Most survival horror games of the era used static pre-rendered pictures for backgrounds. Pre-rendered images were detailed, but they were completely motionless and frozen like old photographs. Eighting wanted the world of Chaos Break to feel active, dynamic, and physically responsive. The PlayStation console had to calculate every single wall panel and door frame live. To keep the game running smoothly, developers carefully managed lighting and shadow effects. Corridors were built with sharp right-angle turns to block long lines of sight. This clever geometric design prevented the hardware from trying to load too many objects. It also created terrifying blind spots where dangerous monsters could easily hide from view. The color palette of Flux Laboratory relies heavily on industrial contrast and shadow. Dark steel grays and rusty brown tones dominate the heavy structural background environment. These dull earth tones are suddenly broken by harsh neon warning lights and monitors. Bright red emergency lamps spin slowly on the ceiling, casting long-moving shadows around. Blue computer screens glow softly in abandoned offices, displaying endless streams of failing code. Sickly green chemical stains cover floors where biological containment tanks ruptured during the initial panic. This careful use of color tells a clear visual story of sudden catastrophe. Human order was instantly shattered by an unstoppable wave of chaotic biological destruction. The environment of Chaos Break tells its story without using long cutscenes or dialogue. You discover what happened by paying close attention to small details scattered everywhere. An open briefcase lies discarded near an elevator door, spilling useless papers across the floor. A heavy steel security door bears massive claw marks that cut deep into the metal. Half-eaten meals sit on desks next to coffee cups that have gone completely cold. In one room, a fire extinguisher lies empty beside a scorched computer console terminal. These small physical clues allow your brain to reconstruct the terrifying final moments of human life. You realize the workers had zero warning before the biological nightmare suddenly tore through. Computer terminals and abandoned paper file logs offer deeper glimpses into the corporate collapse. As you inspect desks and workstations, you gather bits of written history left behind. You read frantic emails sent between scientists, arguing about strange research safety protocols. Early notes describe minor chemical leaks and odd behavior in laboratory test subjects. Later reports detail sudden worker illnesses, wild hallucinations, and violent attacks in the cafeteria. The final entries are short, messy, and filled with sheer human terror and panic. They reveal a corporate structure that valued scientific progress far more than human safety. Reading these logs makes the empty hallways feel inhabited by the ghosts of dead workers. The sound design of Chaos Break is an absolute masterclass in psychological atmosphere building. The game rarely relies on loud, dramatic orchestra music to scare the player. Instead, it relies on a heavy, atmospheric soundscape of ambient industrial noises and silence. The constant low hum of power generators vibrates softly through the heavy metal floor. Distant steam pipes hiss unexpectedly, making you spin around with your gun drawn ready. Water drops fall into dark puddles with a clear, echoey, hollow sound in the quiet. Your own footsteps change sound depending on what surface you are walking across right now. Metal grates clank loudly, while concrete floors produce dull, heavy thuds under your boots. This focus on realistic ambient sound makes every single monster encounter infinitely more terrifying. Because there is no constant background music, you must rely entirely on your hearing. You will often hear a creature long before you can actually see it anywhere. The terrible sound of wet flesh sliding across smooth floor tiles echoes down hallways. Metallic scratching noises, coming from inside the ceiling vents, signal an incoming aerial attack. The sudden absence of ambient generator noise can instantly send chills down your spine. When a room goes completely silent, your brain immediately knows that a dangerous predator is near. The audio landscape turns the physical structure of Flux Laboratory into an active character. Navigating the interconnected floors of Flux Laboratory requires careful mapping and patient backtracking. You must find specific color-coded keycards and electronic security passcodes to unlock sealed doors. Heavy blast doors seal off entire sections of the facility to prevent biological contamination. Every time you unlock a door, a heavy pneumatic hiss fills the quiet air. The heavy metal door slides open slowly, revealing another dark and unexplored hallway segment. You are constantly trapped between two locked doors inside narrow, airtight concrete corridors. There are no windows looking out into the light of the outside world anywhere. You are buried deep inside a steel maze with no easy way to escape. Even the safe rooms in Chaos Break offer very little true emotional relief or comfort. In traditional survival horror games, safe rooms feature calm, soothing music and warm lighting. They feel like holy sanctuaries where monsters can never reach you or hurt you. In Flux Sublaboratory, saving your progress occurs at cold computer terminals inside isolated offices. The ambient lighting remains dark and eerie, accompanied by the same low computer hums. You never truly feel safe or comfortable inside any room of the facility. You know that as soon as you open the door, horror is waiting. The line between a safe sanctuary and a deadly trap is dangerously thin throughout. The constant presence of the ocean water is reinforced through small architectural, structural details. Sub-level corridors feature thick glass viewing windows that look directly into the deep sea. You can see cold black water pressing against the reinforced double-paned glass surface. Small air bubbles rise slowly past structural support beams covered in rust and sea life. Deep metallic groans echo through the facility as ocean currents push against the walls. The building itself feels like it is constantly fighting against the crushing sea pressure. You realize that if the glass cracks, the freezing ocean will drown everything inside. The environment threatens your survival with two distinct deadly hazards: biological monsters and water. The level design creates a rhythmic flow of tension, relief, and sudden spatial panic. You travel down clean medical hallways only to drop into dark, filthy sewer drainage pipes. You climb iron ladders into cramped service shafts where you must crawl on your hands and knees. The camera shifts dynamically as you move, framing rooms to highlight environmental dangers and scale. A wide camera shot reveals the massive size of an underground reactor chamber floor. A tight camera shot inside a narrow storage closet forces complete claustrophobic discomfort upon you. The layout constantly manipulates your physical perception to keep you off balance and uncomfortable. The spatial storytelling of Flux Laboratory influenced many dark survival games that came later. It perfected the art of making an industrial research facility feel cold and hostile. The developers understood that real horror comes from feeling small inside a massive machine. Every corridor was carefully crafted to maximize feelings of isolation, claustrophobia, and dread. The facility is not just a stage where you fight biomonsters for points. It is a living, breathing monument to human arrogance and corporate greed gone wrong. As you move deeper into its depths, you realize the worst is yet to come. The physical structure of Flux Laboratory was built to contain the unimaginable biological nightmares within. But no metal wall or blast door could stop the terrifying evolution taking place inside. In the next section, we will investigate the horrifying creatures that inhabit these dark halls. We will examine mutated parasites, biohazard meters, thermal weapons, and body horror gameplay mechanics. Chapter 3. Biological Terror. Survival horror games usually rely on slow, undead bodies, staggering down dark hallways. Classic zombies step forward with mindless hunger, offering a familiar kind of danger. Chaos Break completely abandoned traditional zombies in favor of aggressive biological parasites. The primary threat inside Flux Laboratory comes from alien organisms known as the Chaos Elements. These strange biological specimens do not simply kill their human victims outright. Instead, they bond directly with human cells and warp living tissue from within. Human flesh becomes soft, malleable, and subject to horrifying and unpredictable mutations. A quiet scientist working at a desk can transform into a writhing biological nightmare. Muscle tissues swell rapidly until bones snap under immense internal physical pressure. Long, bloody tentacles burst through human skin and clothing in sudden violent showers. The final result is a grotesque creature driven entirely by basic parasitic instinct. This intense focus on visceral body horror gave the game a distinct personality. It moved away from simple supernatural ghosts and leaned heavily into terrifying biotech science. Designing believable body horror on 32-bit hardware was an extremely difficult task. The original PlayStation had low polygon limits and used blurry, low-resolution visual textures. Yet the development team at 8ing used these technical limitations to their advantage. Pixelated blood and jagged low-poly models made mutated flesh look wet and deeply unnatural. The crude graphics accidentally enhanced the gross alien quality of the monster designs. Your brain fills in the terrifying details that the blocky hardware could not render. One of the earliest enemies you encounter is the crawling parasitic worm. These fast organisms slither out of broken vents and dead bodies on the floor. They leap through the dark air directly at your character's exposed neck. If a parasite attaches to your body, it drains your vitality very quickly. You must violently shake the directional pad to break its tight physical grip. Other monsters include grotesque humanoid mutants with swollen, completely uneven limbs. Their heads split open down the middle to reveal sharp rows of teeth. They move with jerky, unpredictable motions that make aiming your weapon very challenging. The biological horror does not remain confined strictly to the flat concrete floor. Dangerous flying parasites hang suspended from cold steel pipes along high ceiling shafts. They drop down onto unsuspecting players as they walk through narrow, dark doorways. Gelatinous slime organisms coat the walls and floors of lower sublevel storage rooms. These acidic green blobs dissolve human clothing and flesh on contact within seconds. You can hear them sizzle loudly as they slide across damp metal grates. Infected plant growths spread like massive pulsating veins across structural steel support beams. These thick organic vines block essential security doorways and cover vital keycard readers. You cannot simply walk past these biological obstructions without taking heavy physical damage. You must actively clear the organic mass using specialized thermal weaponry and fire. This environmental threat makes the facility itself feel alive, hostile, and constantly growing. The building is slowly transforming into a massive breathing organism made of flesh. To survive these terrifying biological organisms, players need unique high-tech military weaponry. Standard lead bullets are often ineffective against rapidly mutating parasitic body tissue. Bullets simply pass through soft flesh without stopping the organism's forward movement. This is where the game introduces its most famous weapon, the thermal blade. The female protagonist Mitsuki carries a glowing energy saber designed for close combat. This thermal blade is capable of slicing through dense organic matter with ease. The glowing energy blade cauterizes organic tissue while cutting through heavy biological hide. It glows brightly in dark hallways, lighting up nearby walls and wet floors. Swinging the thermal blade requires you to stand very close to dangerous predators. You must time your melee strikes perfectly to interrupt incoming enemy attacks. The blade never runs out of ammunition, making it your ultimate backup weapon. It balances extreme physical danger with reliable, infinite slicing power in tight spaces. The male protagonist Rick relies on heavy long-range firearms to handle biological threats. His arsenal includes high-caliber handguns, tactical shotguns, and heavy explosive grenade launchers. Incendiary rounds and flamethrowers deal massive thermal damage to pulsing parasitic organisms. Setting mutated creatures on fire stops their rapid cellular regeneration dead in its tracks. Flames lick across their mutated hides, forcing them to drop to the floor. Choosing the correct weapon for each specific enemy type is vital for survival. Fighting these mutated organisms introduces a second layer of physical danger beyond health loss. In addition to a standard health bar, players must monitor their biohazard contamination. The biohazard meter tracks how deeply infected your character becomes during close combat. Certain enemy attacks spray toxic spores and corrosive biological fluids directly onto your skin. If your biohazard meter fills up completely, parasitic eggs begin gestating in your blood. Infection slowly drains your movement speed and reduces your total maximum physical stamina. Your character will cough violently, without warning, freezing you in place during combat. Standard medical health kits cannot cure a severe biological parasite infection on their own. You must search the dark halls for rare vaccine serums and decontamination sprays. Specialized decontamination chambers located across the lab can clean your system completely. Managing your infection meter creates constant psychological pressure while exploring new areas. The combat control scheme balances classic tank controls with dynamic real-time target locking. You use the directional pad to turn your character left or right slowly. Holding down the aim button locks your weapon automatically onto the nearest threat. You can step backward while firing to maintain a safe physical distance from monsters. Sidestepping allows you to dodge sudden lunges from fast-jumping ceiling parasites. Quick turns let you spin around instantly when ambushed from behind in dark corridors. This fluid movement system retains the high-energy spirit of classic arcade action games. However, strict ammunition restrictions keep you from playing the game like a simple shooter. Every single bullet fired consumes valuable resources that cannot be easily replaced later. Deciding whether to stand and fight or turn and run is crucial. Ammunition is scattered sparingly throughout the dark, quiet rooms of Flux Laboratory. You might find 3 small handgun rounds hidden inside an old metal supply cabinet. A single shotgun shell might lie forgotten on top of a blood-stained desk. Your personal inventory space is strictly limited to a small number of carrying slots. Carrying multiple heavy weapons leaves less room for essential medical kits and vaccines. You must constantly make tough operational decisions about what equipment to take along. Metal storage boxes located inside computer rooms allow you to store extra supplies safely. Planning your inventory layout before entering unknown sectors of the facility is essential. Running completely out of ammunition in a dark hallway forces you into melee combat. Facing a giant biological horror with only a small knife creates pure, unadulterated panic. The boss encounters in Chaos Break push the body horror elements to absolute limits. Each major boss represents a terrifying culmination of runaway parasitic cellular evolution. Early in the game, you face a massive mutated worm inside a water purification tank. The gigantic creature thrashes wildly, breaking concrete walls and spraying toxic sludge across the room. The scale of the monster forces you to move constantly to avoid being crushed. Later in the game, you encounter a grotesque fusion of human scientists and laboratory equipment. Metal wires and steel plates are embedded directly into pulsing, mutated red muscle tissue. The creature uses broken industrial machinery as heavy weapons to attack you from afar. The final encounters feature massive multi-stage abominations that take up the entire screen. These monsters change shape as they take damage, sprouting new deadly organic limbs. You must target specific glowing core organs to deal significant structural damage to them. Defeating these giant beasts requires quick movement, heavy firepower, and absolute calm focus. The boss fights test everything you have learned about resource management and combat timing. They are frantic, noisy, and visually overwhelming standoffs against complete biological chaos. The creature design of Chaos Break captured the dark spirit of early 2000 horror media. It combined organic biological filth with cold, metallic military science fiction aesthetic elements. The game showed how Japanese developers were exploring visceral themes of dangerous genetic modification. It moved away from Gothic mansion horror toward modern biotech-driven apocalyptic fears. The graphic violence was surprisingly intense for its era, featuring severed limbs and melting flesh. This visceral edge gave the game a dark and cool identity among foreign import collectors. Even with blocky graphics, the monsters managed to inspire genuine disgust and physical discomfort. The visual design proved that strong creative vision can overcome severe technical hardware limits. The biohazard system, thermal weapons, and body horror formed the core gameplay loop. Every fight felt like a desperate struggle to keep your body clean and alive. Eating successfully created a terrifying survival experience that felt distinct from its popular rivals. But behind these horrifying monsters lay a much deeper and darker corporate conspiracy. In the next section, we will analyze the 2 protagonists, branching narrative paths, and secret lore. Chapter 4, 2 Paths in the Dark, A great survival horror game relies on more than just scary monsters and dark rooms. It needs strong main characters to carry the emotional weight of the nightmare. In Chaos Break, players choose between two distinct members of the Special Response Unit known as Clean. Your choice between Mitsuki and Rick is not just a simple visual preference. It changes how you navigate corridors, fight creatures, and experience the overarching story. Each character brings a unique personality, weapon kit, and movement style to the mission. Their individual journeys reveal different pieces of the dark corporate conspiracy behind the outbreak. Choosing your protagonist completely reshapes your overall experience inside Flux Laboratory. Let us first look closely at the female protagonist, Mitsuki. She is a young, highly trained agent who moves with speed and incredible agility. In a subgenre filled with slow soldiers, Mitsuki feels sharp and responsive to control. Her defining physical feature in combat is her thermal energy blade. This glowing saber forces players to adopt a bold and aggressive combat style. You cannot simply stand at the end of a long hallway and shoot safely. You must run directly toward grotesque biological monsters and slice through their mutated flesh. This creates a thrilling dynamic where high risk brings high physical reward. Mitsuki's campaign emphasizes speed, quick reflexes, and brave close-range combat. Mitsuki's personality brings a needed sense of humanity to the cold industrial facility. She expresses genuine shock and sorrow when finding dead scientists abandoned in dark offices. Her dialogue shows a deep desire to help potential survivors trapped in the nightmare. Yet she remains a lethal operative who never panics when monsters burst through windows. Her personal motivation turns the mission into a rescue effort rather than a simple shoot. As she explores the lower levels, her story focuses on the human tragedy of the outbreak. She sees the victims not as collateral damage, but as real people who deserved better. By contrast, the male protagonist Rick offers a completely different approach to survival. Rick is a hardened veteran soldier who approaches every situation with cold military tactical logic. He does not move with the fast agility of Mitsuki across wet floors. Instead, he steps firmly, carrying heavy military equipment designed for mass destruction. His starting arsenal includes powerful long-range handguns, tactical shotguns, and explosive launchers. Playing as Rick feels more like a methodical siege against an invading alien force. He maintains distance between himself and incoming creatures, relying on heavy firepower to stop them dead. His campaign satisfies players who prefer heavy artillery over risky close-range sword play. Rick's story perspective is focused strictly on tactical mission success and unit survival. He views Flux Laboratory as a hostile combat zone that must be contained at all costs. He speaks to officers with brief, professional discipline, ignoring personal emotional distractions along the way. While Mitsuki searches for survivors to save, Rick focuses on neutralizing primary biological threats. He wants to secure explosive charges and destroy the facility before infection spreads further. This cold outlook reflects his background as an experienced operative who knows corporate missions are messy. His military lens highlights the cold reality of biological warfare and tactical containment. Having two distinct playable characters encourages players to complete the game multiple times. You do not simply play the exact same levels with a different character model. The layout of items, computer key codes, and enemy placements change between campaigns. Cutscenes feature different dialogue exchanges, revealing new sides to the supporting non-playable characters. Mitsuki might encounter an injured researcher who provides a keycard to a medical wing. Rick might find that same researcher already deceased, forcing him to find another way through. These dynamic differences give each playthrough a unique identity and fresh mechanical challenges. Beyond character choices, Chaos Break features an underrated branching narrative system for its era. The game tracks your exploration speed, keycard decisions and room interactions behind the scenes. Depending on which areas you visit first, story events shift in subtle ways. If you rush to a research sector quickly, you might interrupt a monster attack. You can save an innocent worker who reveals hidden access codes for weapon lockers. If you take too long exploring previous hallways, you arrive too late to save them. The room will be quiet, containing only bloody wreckage and discarded personal items. This real-time consequence system adds immense psychological pressure to your exploration choices. You are constantly forced to weigh thorough resource searching against mission urgency. Do you take 5 extra minutes to search every storage locker for ammo? Or do you hurry down a dark staircase to investigate screams heard down the hall? There are no on-screen timer icons telling you what to do right now. The world simply moves forward whether you are ready for story events or not. This design choice makes the environment feel like a real place with real consequences. The true narrative heart of Chaos Break lies scattered across abandoned computer desks and floors. Written logs, voice memos, and scientific files provide essential context for the biological disaster. Reading these documents reveals a terrifying timeline of human greed, pride, and corporate betrayal. Early diary entries written by lead researchers sound optimistic, peaceful, and filled with pride. They describe discovering strange parasitic cells retrieved from deep ocean thermal vents. Scientists believed these unique organisms held the key to curing all human diseases forever. They dreamed of global fame, medical breakthroughs, and endless funding for their laboratory. However, as you read further into the digital logs, the tone turns dark very fast. Scientists report that the parasitic cells reproduce at a horrifying, uncontrollable physical rate. The organisms do not simply repair damaged biological tissue inside living host bodies. They absorb host genetic material, rewrite host DNA, and trigger wild structural mutations. Laboratory animals grew giant organic spikes, lost vision, and attacked lab workers with savage fury. Instead of stopping the experiments immediately, corporate executives ordered researchers to continue work in secret. Management realized that these terrifying mutations could be sold as ultimate biological weapons to foreign militaries. The final log entries written before the outbreak are messy, brief, and filled with panic. Researchers describe locked doors, failing air filters, and security teams firing weapons in hallways. Corporate executives placed the entire island under strict lockdown, cutting off external phone lines completely. They chose to trap hundreds of innocent workers inside, with escaping's biological monsters. Management wanted to preserve their valuable corporate research data, even if everyone died inside. Reading these final desperate entries adds immense emotional weight to the cold metal corridors. You realize that the real monsters of Chaos Break were not just the parasites. The true villains were the corporate suits who valued money over human life. This deep lore ties directly into the multiple endings players can unlock upon finishing. Chaos Break does not give everyone a happy, heroic ending just for reaching the end. Your total clear time, saved survivors, and final choices determine how the story concludes. In the best possible ending, your protagonist triggers the laboratory self-destruct sequence in time. You sprint to the helipad, fighting past a final massive boss monster as alarms blare. You board the rescue helicopter just as the entire island facility explodes into flames behind you. The dark secrets of Flux Laboratory are burned away, sinking beneath the ocean forever. However, The game also contains much darker and more tragic ending scenarios for players. If you fail to perform key tasks, the self-destruct sequence fails to activate properly. Your character escapes on the helicopter, believing the biological danger is finally over forever. But as the chopper flies toward the mainland, a quiet, skittering sound echoes inside. A hidden parasite emerges from a supply crate, attacking the pilot in middle flight. The screen fades to black as the helicopter spins out of control over populated cities. This chilling ending implies that the biological nightmare is about to consume the entire world. There are also tragic character-specific endings that punish careless play and slow exploration speed. In one dark ending, your protagonist suffers heavy biological contamination during the final battle. Even though you defeat the final boss, your character realizes they are completely infected inside. They refuse to board the rescue helicopter, knowing they will transform into a monster soon. They lock themselves inside the crumbling facility as explosive charges detonate all around them. They choose a brave, lonely death in the ocean to protect the rest of humanity. This heartbreaking resolution highlights the heavy emotional cost of fighting biohazards. The narrative design of Chaos Break stands out as a hidden gem of its era. It took standard survival horror tropes and elevated them through branching paths and lore. Mitsuki and Rick were not just color-swapped clones running through identical hallway maps. They offered distinct thematic lenses through which to view a terrifying corporate tragedy. The game respected the player's intelligence by hiding deep story details inside optional reading files. It rewarded curious players who took time to explore dark corners and read scientific notes. By combining tight character dynamics, branching paths, and dark lore, 18 created something special. They proved that a studio known for arcade shooters could write a compelling story. They built a world that felt dangerous, tragic, and deeply atmospheric from start to finish. Yet despite all this creative effort and narrative depth, the game faced an unfair future. It was doomed to vanish into absolute obscurity shortly after its European release in 2000. In our final section, we will explore the mysterious legacy and lost history of Chaos Break. Chapter 5: The Forgotten Nightmare. In the late months of the year 2000, the gaming world changed completely. The shiny new PlayStation 2 had finally arrived in store windows everywhere. Players across the globe were eager to jump into next-generation gaming. They wanted sharp 3D graphics, massive open worlds, and cinematic DVD movies. Older grey PlayStation consoles were suddenly packed away into dark bedroom closets. Retail store shelves replaced standard plastic CD cases with sleek blue cases. Because of this massive technological revolution, smaller games were quietly left behind. Developers were rushing to move their creative projects to modern hardware. Publishers no longer wanted to spend money localizing older 3D games. In this hectic transitional period, Chaos Break was quietly buried forever. To understand why this game vanished, we must look at the market. By late 2000, bringing a Japanese game to America was expensive. A company had to pay for localization, rating boards, and manufacturing. Retail stores required huge guaranteed sales numbers before placing games on shelves. Taito was a legendary arcade publisher, but they lacked strong American distribution. They knew that American gamers were already saving money for PS2 titles. Releasing a late survival horror game on old hardware was risky. The company decided that the financial rewards simply did not justify costs. Therefore, an official North American release for Chaos Break was quietly cancelled. American horror fans were left completely in the dark regarding its existence. However, the game found an unexpected second home across the Atlantic Ocean. A British publisher named System 3 decided to license the game. In late 2000, Chaos Break was officially released across European PAL territories. European survival horror fans were finally able to purchase the mysterious title. But playing a Japanese game on European hardware came with technical trade-offs. European televisions of that era operated on a 50 Hz refresh rate. Japanese and American consoles used a faster 60 Hz display signal. Converting a 60 Hz game to 50 Hz was notoriously difficult back then. Most developers did not take the time to optimize their games properly. As a result, the European release suffered from significant visual hardware compromises. Thick black bars appeared at the top and bottom of the screen. These black borders squished the dynamic three-dimensional visuals, making characters look short. The game also ran about 17% slower than the Japanese original. Character movement felt slightly sluggish, and ambient audio lost some fast pacing. Yet despite these visual flaws, European gamers embraced the atmospheric title. The box art featured a terrifying metallic logo set against pitch blackness. It looked mysterious, dangerous, and mature to teenagers browsing local game shops. For many European players, this squished version was their only memory. One of the strangest facts about Chaos Break involves its audio tracks. The original Japanese release already featured full English voice acting for dialogue. Japanese survival horror games from the 90s frequently used full English dialogue. Japanese developers believed that English voice acting gave games a Hollywood feel. Because the English audio was already finished, localizing for Europe was easy. Players did not need subtitle translations to understand the main story beats. Yet this complete English voice track sparked a long-standing urban legend. American gamers began to believe that a full US version was finished. During the early 2000s, internet message boards exploded with wild video game rumors. Sites like Game FAQs and early forums hosted passionate discussions about lost games. Gamers claimed that a finished North American disc was sitting in storage. Rumors circulated that review copies had been sent to major gaming magazines. Writers for popular publications like GameFan and Electronic Gaming Monthly had printed previews. These tiny magazine articles featured crisp screenshots and excited descriptions of gameplay. Readers assumed these previews meant an American store launch was happening soon. When the game never appeared on store shelves, conspiracy theories began. Some fans believed the game was banned due to extreme graphic violence. They claimed the rating board objected to body horror and melting flesh. Others argued that Taito suffered a sudden legal dispute over distribution rights. A famous urban legend claimed that prototype review discs were illegally stolen. According to the story, these stolen discs were sold at dark conventions. Collector groups spent years searching online auction sites for these unreleased prototypes. They hoped to find a rare North American disc containing secret features. However, historical reality is much simpler than these dramatic internet conspiracy myths. No official North American localization disc was ever manufactured by the company. The previews printed in American magazines were based entirely on import discs. Journalists frequently imported Japanese games to write early preview articles for readers. The English voice acting existed simply because Japanese developers preferred foreign dialogue. The ESRB never officially banned the game from American retail store shelves. Taito simply made a cold business decision during a shifting console market. They chose not to risk money on an aging PlayStation hardware market. The myth of the lost American disc was born from miscommunication. As years passed, the original PlayStation era faded into gaming history. Physical copies of Chaos Break became rare, expensive items for private collectors. Finding a complete Japanese or European copy required spending significant money online. The game seemed doomed to remain a tiny footnote in history. But during the mid-2000s, something amazing happened within the gaming community. The rise of PlayStation emulation completely transformed how fans preserved classic games. Software like EepSeersXX allowed players to run foreign games on computers. Internet archiving groups began ripping physical CD-ROM discs into digital files. Suddenly, survival horror enthusiasts around the globe could easily play Chaos Break. Foreign import games were no longer locked behind region-protected console hardware chips. Players downloaded the digital files and experienced the underground nightmare for themselves. Online retro gaming communities began writing walkthroughs and hidden Easter egg guides. Content creators posted full gameplay playthroughs on video platforms like YouTube. Viewers were shocked to discover a sleek, dynamic, real-time horror game. They wondered how such a unique title had slipped past them. The internet had given a forgotten Japanese nightmare a second chance at life. When retro historians re-evaluate Chaos Break today, its innovation becomes clear. The game occupied a fascinating middle ground between two distinct design eras. It bridged the gap between old-school tank controls and modern action horror. Games like Dino Crisis experimented with full 3D environments on old hardware. But Chaos Break pushed real-time lighting and fluid movement even further. Its dual protagonist structure offered genuine gameplay variety for action fans and purists. The combination of thermal melee swords and firearms felt surprisingly ahead of time. We can see echoes of Chaos Break in modern independent survival horror titles. Games like Signalis and Crow Country capture that same retro industrial atmosphere. Modern developers look back at late-era PlayStation games for artistic visual inspiration. They admire how older developers solved severe hardware limits through clever lighting. The dirty, low-poly aesthetic of Flux Laboratory has acquired a vintage charm. What once looked crude and blocky now feels artistic, deliberate, and creepy. The cold, metallic corridors continue to inspire atmospheric level design in games today. Chaos Break also serves as a fascinating companion piece to classic games. It belongs to a golden family of obscure late PS1 horror titles. Games like Deep Fear, Overblood, Galerians, and Carrier shared similar science fiction themes. They all explored dark themes of corporate greed, biological mutation, and isolation. These titles lacked the massive marketing budgets of famous franchises like Resident Evil. However, they possessed a unique, quirky identity that mainstream games lacked. They took bold, creative risks with mechanics, themes, and camera movement. The story of Flux Laboratory reminds us of a special era in gaming. It was a time when developers experimented freely without fear of failure. Smaller teams could build a complete survival horror game in 2 years. They did not need hundreds of millions of dollars to test ideas. They simply took an arcade shooter engine and transformed it into horror. That creative bravery gave us unique gems that still spark our imaginations. Chaos Break may have been forgotten by mainstream retail stores in 2000, but its legacy lives on in the hearts of retro gaming historians. As the final credits roll over the dark waters of the ocean, a truth remains. Chaos Break is far more than a simple Dino Crisis clone or knockoff. It is a preserved time capsule from the golden age of survival horror. It captures the tension, atmosphere, and technical ambition of late 1990s Japanese gaming. For those brave enough to dive into its dark corridors today, horror awaits. The cold metal doors of Flux Laboratory will always remain open for us. Deep beneath the stormy waves, the biological nightmare continues to sleep quietly in the dark.